Sister's here at least.
Hello.
Turn that off. Calibrator.
Hello, everyone. Great to have you. No one can see our faces yet, but that's intentional, so don't mind.
Don't
Hello.
spoil the surprise.
Don't spoil the surprise. If
If
they
they
were,
were here last time,
yeah.
not a surprise.
Is it a spoiler if the prequel already came out and explained all of this?
Yes.
Um, Hello and welcome to Luck Check. Specifically, the Talkback, the only show on Twitch that features these specific people talking about this specific thing. My name is Johnny McAllister, and joining me tonight are two distinguished guests, Alex Mason and Dr. Ben Stortenbecker. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Hello. It's a good day to be talking about D&D.
Yes, very cool, very cool.
We don't talk about D&D at all the
Oh, yeah.
entire stream.
All of my prompts are related to the canceling of Batgirl and nothing else.
They canceled Batgirl.
They did.
Serious?
It's horrible.
Did you not know?
Anyways,
No, I don't
here on
watch CW.
here on Luck Check, we aren't doing anything too crazy. It's going to be a very casual, laid-back kind of chat between the three of us. We're here to answer your questions about the show, about us, and about life in general, and especially about the CW's Batgirl. So feel free to shout out any questions you have in the Twitch chat whenever you feel like it. To start us off, however, I have to press the button that makes it so that our faces show up. Hello, everyone that can hear us. Your hand disappears completely into the void when you wave. I love that.
It turns out this isn't a human. This is a human.
See, neither of those registered because your hands don't show up.
It's so good.
Just mushrooms all the way around.
Just mushrooms everywhere. Alex and I attempted. So first off, I'll introduce to my left, and it's mirrored, so that is true still. To my left, this is Alex Mason.
Hi.
Oh, there's Streamcord. I didn't even need to make the announcement. It just took a while. That's okay. Hey, that's all right.
Very professional here.
Very professional. And then over to my right is Ben Stortenbecker. Just to get the introductions out of the way so that everyone can see.
Hello.
So I want to go in a quick order really quick, and this is kind of just a icebreaker question for D&D stuff. If you could run a D&D,
D&D.
if you could
We're
run,
gonna start a D&D daycare. It's perfect.
if you
Good
could,
business opportunity.
yeah, exactly. If you could run a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in any setting, what setting would you choose? This could be something you make up yourself or an existing setting that you just want to run a campaign in. This is for, you don't even have to be the DM for this necessarily, but like if it's like, I really want to play in this setting, what would it be? It's open for anyone.
I mean, that is technically what I am doing with the D&D that I play with your siblings, is I took a world that I made for a story, and I wanted to play in it, so...
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's fair. Could you go into a little more detail, because no one else knows what that is?
So...
Literally no one. John is the only one.
No, I have no idea either.
Explain.
So I was trying to write a story where dragons ruled over the world and stuff, and they like had to follow like strict guidelines, otherwise they'd go insane. And then I'm just sitting there like, I can use this for D&D.
Yeah. So it was originally a book you were trying to work on, right?
Yeah, and then I tried to make it into a webcomic, which did not go well.
I've been there.
I posted like a couple of pages, and then my computer broke, and I went, fuck it.
Yeah, just burn the whole thing.
As a new PhD in physics, I'm very afeared for the fact that it seems to be my destiny to make a web comic of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe a D&D one.
Yeah.
Because what every physics PhD becomes a cartoonist, just bar none. It's like, oh goodness.
You learn all of the important skills for making a fool out of yourself when you go into the STEM field.
You know, I think I just realized I have some stories based on the little short stories based on the book that I was on Wattpad. I started writing it on fucking Wattpad.
Oh no, I do know what Wattpad is because I've seen you
Yeah,
talked about that.
Wattpad is for tween girls writing about One Direction kidnapping them or paying their parents to own them.
Interesting. Anyways, sorry. Ben, do you have
A little distracted.
Yeah, listen. I'm fixing the volume really quick. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn Ben back up from the normal volume that I keep him at for my own comfort and safety to the deafening volume that he has to be on for everyone on stream to hear him.
Oh no. Do I destroy your eardrums every time we play
Yes.
games, Johnny?
Yes.
That's probably true.
It's very fun.
I do scream a lot with Strive. It's great. Like it's cultivating the streamer aesthetic of just
Exactly, yeah.
have a reaction.
Prettier
Have
when he's not
reactions are
talking.
important.
Wow, you literally can't say that.
Anyways, yes, actually. So this is where the world that you shifted to now with the reboot is actually surprisingly close. I've always been a big fan of the piratey aesthetic. The One Piece story always hits my heart.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to really do and like was developing, and I think I'm planning to make into an actual campaign, is a sky pirate style world.
Okay.
I really love that aesthetic of like, you've got your ship and it's this thing that you take care of, but the freedom of just like, nah, fuck the sea. That's too level. You don't have enough freedom there. Let's go to the sky.
Yeah.
And like, I think there is a
not space.
There's a rich space of creatively figuring out how that would work, why that had to happen in a particular world. Like you could start with terrestrial thing or whatever. One of the inspiring things, like I really like the aesthetic of Skies of Arcadia as a game.
Right.
And I think that's always a great way to make a campaign or make a setting that you want to have a world. And it's like, I'm just gonna do this video game that certainly no one else has ever probably ever played all the way through.
No one has ever even heard of this game. It's fine.
Another one that I like, inspiration for this is Jim Butcher's the Corsair's Windless, the Windless's Corsair. I remembered this and now I've forgotten it, and I am a horrible, horrible human being. But
sounds familiar. I've read some of Jim Butcher's work, so I'm like
it's
trying
a book
to remember.
I love.
The Spires series. Is that what it is? Or is that just an unrelated
yes.
thing that I read? Okay.
No.
The word nerd saving us.
Yeah. Well, my sister is here, and we love that book. We're both big Jim Butcher fans. Well,
Gotcha.
I'm a big Jim Butcher fan still. She's like, how dare you, Jim Butcher, make this one story decision? It's awful.
Yeah, I honestly stopped reading Dresden Files after a while.
Feel like
how
that.
Dare. It's so good. I love
it.
And then as a backup, I think the setting, clearly I've answered this. The other setting that I would want to have it in is a daycare.
Yeah. Dungeons and daycare.
I mean, can you imagine can you imagine trying to run a fantasy daycare? That would be an incredible, little story idea for a few sessions. I think that would be fun. Or to do a Rugrats themed D&D adventure.
Yeah.
I have my answer is not too far off from that. Something that I very much have always wanted to play in and very briefly considered running for a group of coworkers was a Dungeons and Dragons game where the players are the caretakers of a tavern. So you're not the adventurers. You're the people that has to deal with all of the adventurers and the big bads that show up to make drama and do all of this. And it's just, why are all of these people coming into my tavern and destroying the place once a week? And then So you'll have like your little adventures are our local supplier can't get like the supply of honey mead or like honey that we use for mead. Um, and all of the adventurers that come here are too busy with their big call to adventure to sit down and deal with some bandits. So like we're gonna pay you overtime if you go just deal with these bandits for us and clear up the supply route. And so it's just you know there's a lot of versatility for like your player archetypes there too. You have like you have your bartender, you have your wait staff, you have your kitchen staff, and there's all of the stereotypes that come with that you can make a fun play on.
Kitchen staff is just barbarians. They're raiding all the time.
Yeah, kitchen staff is they're barbarian artificer multi-classes, please. It's a work of art what kitchen staff has to deal with and still manage to keep a business afloat entirely by themselves with no one else's help.
Wait staff is bards.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the bard that is completely unrelated and is truly the main villain of the campaign.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful.
It's very good. I have a follow-up question based on if anyone needs care in the daycare, it's the DM. Mishun in chat is right. They're one weird question about how a basic mechanic works away from popping a blood vessel. I have
how insightful.
That's a great question, actually. I'm gonna channel that into a new question that I didn't even have written down. Do you have any moments as a DM, any of you, that made you just go, what the actual fuck are they doing? Like, just any moments that made you nearly pop a blood vessel from just your players doing something or a specific nat 20 or nat 1 that just ruined your life. I can start with this. I had a very powerful and dangerous like main antagonist for a good portion of my home game. His name was Chirin Ivis. He was a satyr zealot who worshipped the sun and saw everything that wasn't a satyr as being an unholy bastardization of the sun's light and needed to burn everything that wasn't his type. He was a zealot racist, effectively.
Oh, wow.
He was a nationalist imperialist, is what it was, really. He showed up, whooped the player's ass the first time he showed up, because he was meant to be like this way later encounter, and then they wanted to mess with him.
He whooped us so bad.
And so I was like, all right, he'll play around a little bit, but he's like way stronger than you in every way. A couple of time travel shenanigans happen later, several levels later. The players come back to that moment, and they're like, all right, we got him this time. He's still very difficult, almost kills one of the players, and then we had established a fact that this particular enemy, as this particular character, has a disease called stone rot. He is very slowly petrifying. And his body is turning to stone. But it's not stopping him enough to get his work done that he wants to get done. Our wild magic sorcerer rolled a wild magic surge that caused the figure to age D100 years. Which, in the lifespan of the character, he was going to be all right. But because of the fact that he's dying of a slow petrification, that took place instantly. And so this effect that was just supposed to age someone and make them weaker, instead immediately petrified someone. And they were gone.
There's just a statue of this fucker now on an island.
Yeah, exactly. He's a permanent decoration now.
That hurts. Oof. What a way to go.
It was good.
The best.
I was fine if he died in that combat, because I was like, he's played his narrative arc, but for him to go out because of the most specific circumstance I could have imagined was just like, what is happening? What is Dungeons and Dragons?
That's incredible. I've not had too much that was like nothing quite that like creatively interesting. I've had like different choices from players that have flabbergasted me of like, what are you doing? Why are you not playing to your strengths? Just get beat up. It's fine.
Like Gellin anytime he uses lay on hands.
Or because like I've got a guy I'm running locally here a campaign with Storm King's Thunder, which is kind of this like weird adventure thing that really has a very weak adventure, but like is 2/3 setting book. I got a guy who plays a turtle and he's great, but like the last time in combat, he got like really scared, so he just like jumped up onto the roof and was like, "Okay, now I hide in my shell." And I'm like, "You're the monk. You're like one of the few tanky characters in this party. What are you doing? Just go get beat up."
To be fair, calling a monk tanky is asking a lot.
Okay, a turtle monk. He's got 20 AC. What do you want? It's stupid.
I want him.
It's stupid.
I want him to make a single non-dexterity based saving throw and then fall apart.
He was so the way that like campaign started, I had a little prequel for like how the actual book starts, and they're like going through a forest and they get ambushed by a bunch of slimes dropping down. First combat roll of the game is a slime, and it walks up, critical hits him, and he goes down. 28C.
Very good.
Just immediately like what?
Very
yeah.
cool.
What always?
Sorry, go on.
No, and it's like great. What always surprises me is like when players like understand their abilities better than I do, and it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this is a 10-foot radius. Shatter those goblins who are going to be a big tough fight. Yeah, get fucked. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh no, they have no health now.
I learned very early on in my campaign that Tovi was going to particularly take spells to make my life more difficult. And so all of my enemy encounters have to be designed with the idea in mind of, I need some frontline combatants that can play around with the martial classes and give some of our less mechanically savvy characters something to worry about and something to work on. And then I need the 10 million one-health enemies that group up just so that Tovi doesn't instantly fireball the main group of enemies that I'm working with. And I need him to focus his AoEs on smaller lads somewhere else in the room so that I get to play the game too.
Nice.
That is a struggle. What about you, Alex? Have you had an experience like that?
I haven't so far in my DMing experience. I mean, playing with my little siblings was a nightmare. Literally every word out of their mouth was...
I want to butt their butt.
No, they're 13 and 16. And the 13...
I want to bleep their butt?
No, the 13-year-old had a character named Barbieson.
Yep. Good one.
Was a stone gnome, I think?
Yeah.
Stone gnome, who had killed her best friend, and now her ghost haunts her.
Permanently haunted, yeah, by her former best friend.
That's a good D&D character right there.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but, like, they're just children.
So DMing for children has been your most difficult D&D experience.
To bash their heads together.
I bet.
Very cool.
Yeah, I had a question actually that's kind of tangentially related to this, or somewhat related to this, because obviously all of us here have DM'd. We've got a little bit of experience under our belt.
Yeah.
I kind of was curious, what do you guys feel like personally is the thing that, we've got our inspirations of Matt Mercer and Brian Mulligan and all of those. What are the things that you feel about your DMing styles that are strong, and what do you feel that you're missing? What do you want to improve on?
Ooh, I hate self-reflection.
As you're telling these stories. I know, but that's what people love.
I think
introspection and being like, here, make fun of this.
I think I'm good at the role-playing bit of being a DM, but the combat and making it feel like it has actual stakes, I'm not good at.
That's a lot of that is just experience. I feel like you have DM'd much less than a lot of other people have, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that, but it comes with practice for sure. I would say, funnily enough, I think the thing I'm most comfortable with, and therefore what I feel I'm best at in D&D, and people might have other opinions, I have no idea. Um, I feel like my combats are probably where I'm best at, is setting up engaging encounters with high stakes if I want high stakes, or funny gimmicks if I want that, or, trying to, because it helps a lot. I had to learn very fast how to do that when for my home game, because I have um a group of absolutely broken characters that I have to work around. Um and broken of my own will, I gave them a bunch of things that made them way stronger than they need to be at the levels they were at. And I was like, yeah, I'm giving you all of this so that I can make it way harder to, so I overbalance the game by saying, here's a bunch of magic items by level 5. That means I can crank up the heat whenever I want to keep the challenge there.
That's if we remember we have the magic items.
Yeah, but then I have to remember to balance it around the players that don't realize they have the magic items they do, or how good they are. And so I feel like I'm good at making combats that work for a wide variety of party members.
You have an easy time remembering how to like run your actual encounters. Like you don't forget about. Do you forget about monster abilities, or
I
you're just
do
like,
that.
no. This is how it works.
I do that all the time.
I
Do you forget how legendary actions work?
don't. You could just at fella if you wanted to go after Tovia like that.
Where is he? Where is he?
Where is he? No,
Having to do that in the middle of the stream is just like, oh god, I can't hold it in. I'm so sorry.
It's
I'm
fine.
the way that I am.
I personally don't have a problem remembering all of my monster abilities because I homebrew almost every monster I run. I don't think I've ever gone into the monster manual and been like, I'm going to use this exact text. Other than one time when I was like, yeah, there's a beholder over there, I guess. And so I had to look up what a beholder did, and then it almost killed everyone. I was like, nice.
Yeah.
Honestly, your homebrew monsters are fucking terrifying.
I appreciate that. That is the goal. I want to make monsters that kill you. Because they aren't there to be friends with you. They're there to challenge you.
You did kill me last.
So good.
Yes, the beholder did kill Alex's character in my home game. But they got revivified, so it's fine.
What a bad partner.
Wings.
Yeah, terrible. It's fine. Hey, Alex wasn't the first character that I killed. And
Fair.
the other character that I killed was permanently dead because no one stocked Revivify.
I see. Well, that sucks. What about and you answered first, Alex. So I guess it is my turn to answer this question.
Yeah. Imagine
Boy, I
answering
wish
a
I had
question
done
you
that.
asked yourself.
I wish I had like thought of the answer to that beforehand. Unfortunately, it's like it's like a short set of things and then a long list of like, oh no, I'm here. So
Yeah.
for me, my favorite thing is I think what's good is that like I try and do I think a good job of crafting environments to help people be immersed. So I have a lot of production value on like how I have the battle table set up. I print my own minis to like try and match with the enemies that they're facing. Usually, we were going to this last session actually for once be like, all right, I've got the wrong enemies and I didn't have time to print, so I need to use your imaginations. And then I did one of the things that I'm bad at, distracted the players with another little adventure to get sidetracked with. And it's like, well, I don't need these minis anymore. Pirate attack, go!
Very good.
Yeah, that's one of the weaknesses, and that's like so the weaknesses is kind of attached into that is like distracting players. Really, need to help keep people focused. But I'm really here to have a good time, so I don't care if we get off. And I feel like there's a lot of times where I have trouble remembering the things that I wanted to do. So like a narrative introduction, a description of like an item or an enemy coming in and like what the character looks like and feels like. And it's just like, oh, right. I really did want to have that like actual mental picture described for you and not just spend all my time on remembering what silly accent I did for those characters.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'm terrible at remembering accents for characters. That might genuinely be like it's not a super consequential thing a lot of times, but that might be one of the things I'm genuinely the worst at. Is I am not Tovi in that regard, where when I need to come up with how a character sounds on the fly, I will resort to one of the same two voices each time, and then I'll forget that voice the next time I have to talk about that character, and I'll have no idea who they are. Meanwhile, Tovi's always been very good at, I'm Hoo-Ha Guckert, and I'm going to remember this voice for the rest of my life. And he'll just pull that shit out of nowhere, and always...
That's one thing I can do. That's one thing I can do pretty well. I messed that up in the chat. The trouble with that is then it forces me to be even more extreme, which, let me tell you, if you think Hamos's French accent is bad, wait until I'm actually trying to make fun of French people. That's a hoot.
Oh, no. Very good. I have I'll ask another question next. You're feel free to interrupt whenever you have a question you want to ask as well. This is a communal area. We're all friends here.
I'm okay with interrupting with you. I know.
Okay, you haven't yet, so I was checking. My question is, what do you think makes
immediate critique on the job?
What do you think makes for a good D&D party? This could be as a player, what do you want to see in the rest of the players at the table, or as a DM, what do you want to see composition-wise? There's a couple of different ways you could take this. Like, you could think mechanically, how do you want your party to come together, or just like what character archetypes do you want to see? How do you want to flesh out a party? Something like that. You don't have to answer all of those things. Those are just some thinking points.
I mean, I can tell you right away, I have usually very rarely cared about mechanically how the players come together, particularly as long as, like, for groups that are experienced, just, let them do whatever the heck they want. They'll be creative. They can learn their abilities and like actually use them. Me, I'll just, you'll just try and tune to what the group is doing and how hard or easy you are on them. I always have a bad sense of how hard I'm pushing my players or not. You knock them down and then they get right back up, and DM goes, "Oh man, that was really easy." And the players go, "Ah!" Like that really like asymmetry in the experience kind of makes that difficult. What I'm always looking for in the group is really trying to find a group of people who you can are at least linked well enough to be comfortable with role playing with each other. Because if they can role play with each other, they can come up with plans together. They can they have that level of trust between that is established between players that allows the game to get a little silly, a little more fun. Because even in a serious campaign, you're going to want to have those moments of levity. That's really kind of the lifeblood of the whole thing. Bonus points if you have a group together that likes to hang out together outside of D&D. If you're a dummy like me who's just like, I know all of you and I think you'll all enjoy each other, let's play D&D together. And they're like, all right, that was fun. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not playing D&D? Like, bye. It's like, no, come hang out. Dang it.
Talk to each other. Have a good time. Let's all go get dinner later, like sometime this week, and chat about whatever. I'm gonna publicly out one of my players right now, who I love. I love all of my players, and they all do great, and they all get along together fine. Not you. You're fine. No, I have a player and his wife, who's also a player in the game, who bought a house without telling us. And then didn't ask for help in the move.
We promised to help them.
Like, we knew they were in the housing market looking. We were like, hey, let us know and we'll help you move. And then they told us, like, a month later, they helped us move. And then they said a month later, hey, by the way, we're moved into our new house already.
With a picture in front of it. And we're like...
Also, we're pregnant. And it's just like, what? Can you listen, all right? Listen.
Can we, like, get some updates on your life or anything?
Yeah, it's like it's not like we care about you at all, you know?
We can chat more than just during the game sessions. Like that's a
Exactly.
thing that can happen.
It's fine. No,
It's
I would say
fine.
for my, I'm gonna go in the opposite direction that you went for answering that question about
Really?
party
I
composition.
honestly agree with Ben's. That's how I want dynamic.
Oh no, I'm not
It's
saying
okay. It's
I'm not
okay. No,
saying
no, no,
at
no.
all that Ben's answer was
Uh,
wrong. I'm saying I'm going to answer the opposite way, which is talking about mechanically how I like a party to come together. I am
Because
a
Alex, you and I are smart, and Johnny is just
oh yeah, there's
too focused on
nothing.
the wrong
Mr.
things.
Spreadsheets over here needs the mechanics to be perfect.
Yeah. If if the average DPR of my party doesn't come together at what I want it to be, I'm gonna have a one-on-one with each of you at the end, all right? Um no, no.
Yes.
I come from loving like JRPGs and classic turn-based RPGs, and my brain tells
Mm-hmm.
me whenever I want to put a D&D party together, I'm like, we need to have a tank, we need to have a healer, we need to have a DPS, and we need to have a rogue debuff character. Those are the four perfect things, and once you have all four of those, your party is perfect. And then I'll roll and be like, all right, gang, what are you rolling up for your characters? And I have like I'm rolling up a character that thinks they're a bard, but they're a warlock, and I'm like, cool, we've got our magic spellcaster. That could be, any number of things. Okay, cool. And then it's just, I'm gonna play a randomly generated character where I rolled numbers for every single aspect of the character, and I'm like, cool.
Fuck
You
you.
rolled a wild magic sorcerer. That's fine. We have two full casters now. Great. And then my friend, and then Toby rolls up and is like, I think I'm going to play a Chronergy wizard. And it's like, all right, we got three full casters, and one of them's there just to ruin my life. At least he's not a halfling. And then, you know, the rest of the party. And then we get a druid, and I'm like, that's kind of a healer. And I'm like, okay, cool. Still a full caster.
Yeah, but they
And
got wild shape. It's that could be the tank. It's fine.
yeah, exactly. That could be the tank. And this is again, I'm not trying to call out any of my players here. I love all the characters they come up with together because again, the dynamic is there and the way that they interact with each other is great and it's lovely. But my brain is like I can't do a traditional D&D combat with this group because I have and now by now the wild magic sorcerer has departed this mortal coil and has randomly rolled up a kobold paladin. And I'm like, great, I have a tank now. But unfortunately, the truth about DMing for a paladin and a rogue in the same party is that none of your enemies live past turn one. So the enemies you care about the most don't exist. You have to make new enemies.
Oh dear. You have to throw the minions in first.
Exactly. You have to make sure there's a
Then the
steady
boss can
flood of
show up.
minions to distract the rogue and the paladin long enough for the DM to get to play the game. And I love all of the characters in my campaign. Yeah, Melly Cuccelli says Rudy the druid, which is the character that she plays in my campaign, is totally the tank. Absolutely. No, but Rudy has recently taken on a very supportive role with like aura vitality and I think he took mass cure wounds or mass healing word recently. I don't remember which.
Definitely saved your ass a couple of times.
Yes, absolutely. But it's a good time. I love if I could make a perfect D&D party, it would truly be a wizard, a rogue, a paladin, and was the last one I'd say? Wizard, rogue, paladin, and like a fighter or something. And I would be like, yeah, put these four guys together, and that's a perfect D&D party. We're all good.
Did I ever tell you that my New York campaign has 2 rogues, 2 barbarians?
Yes, you have, and it upsets me.
As it should. A cleric and a warlock.
Very good.
That's
See,
it.
That's fine.
that's actually where I
Look.
come in and I ruin the party composition that I dream of because I make a 3-class character.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Like Johnny, I love you, and I love that you recognize like that you're like, I have an idea of what the perfect set composition is, and then you go, but the ideal is stupid. So let's actually have some fun, because it turns out D&D is a game about fun and creativity, and that's like for me like why I never really worried too much about having like the perfect like that trinity, I guess quadruple if you include debuff, because like
Yeah, absolutely.
the party will figure it out. Look, I'm in a campaign with another guy. I'm the tank as an artificer.
Yeah.
Guardian, and then we've got a rogue and 2 druids just there.
Yeah, might as well.
Just why not?
Yeah, might as well. I love
It maybe annoys me, but it's fine.
in chat from Mashun, any class can be a tank. What makes a great tank is how many times they can do it. Barbarian, 8 to 9 times. Sorcerer, once. But hey, the sorcerer did tank that one time, and that's important. That's an important job.
That's true.
I'm gonna pivot slightly to a different question, unless you have a question.
I do.
Perfect.
You already answered this last talk back.
Okay.
So Ben, what has been your favorite D&D character to play so far in any campaign?
Oh God, but there's so many.
I know.
You could lead off by answering it to give him time.
I do have to say my favorite character I've played so far has to be the first one I ever made, Kaylin in my New York campaign, which Pretentious Film Buff is a part of. I love her so much, but she's a stereotypical rogue. She's edgy. All her parents are dead.
She's a tiefling.
She's a tiefling. Her father figures dying. She would sell the entire party for a slice of ham.
Yeah.
But I've written short stories based on the campaign about her that I just mine.
Yeah. It's everyone I feel like goes through that period of sometimes you got to play the D&D stereotypes to really understand what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes you got to play an edgy rogue with no parents and who is a tiefling, so that you can experience the game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Who tried to ruin the entire campaign by kidnapping a very pivotal character.
God.
But
all right.
I like playing Melody.
This is a question that's asking me to choose which one is my favorite child.
Pick which one now. The others we shoot.
Yeah. Every parent knows that they absolutely can pick a favorite child, and when they say they don't want to, they're lying. So go ahead and give us yours.
Here's the trouble. I never could. I love my kids.
All 3 of my parents' favorite child.
Everyone has a favorite.
Everyone.
Every person has something that makes them special, and that includes my characters and my children.
That is fair.
And okay, so it really depends on like what aspects. And I guess kind of the mood that I'm feeling in the day is what I would say is my favorite. Like, gosh, like even just like, having made Kamos is just like, this is like one of the best characters I've ever done. And I say that for everyone all the time. It would have, God.
My favorite thing when making a character is just dropping my trauma onto each one.
Or, what's his face? Talbjorn. Let's go with Talbjorn. Why not? Talbjorn Demon Slayer is the Balragthan. Right, there we go. This is the thing. It's Elven, one of the Elvens for Demon Slayer or whatever.
Gotcha.
That was the one character that I put, I think, the most backstory into writing of like, here's what it is. Here is like where he fits into this world that you DM have told me, like, here's the land and all of this and lineage, and here's like this arc and what they're going to go through.
Yeah,
it was basically like this barbarian with the mage initiate that was like basically the backstory was for this character. He was possessed by a demon, but it turned out in this world actually is kind of similar to the one that you talked about earlier, Alex, about like dragons ruled the world. Well, dragons, they enslaved the world like thousands of years ago, and basically humans like fought them off. Well, it turns out one of his ancient ancestors made a deal with a demon to be like, all right, give me strength so I can fight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically the demon being like, all right, we're going to take your due. I'm going to take my due. I'm possessing you. You now feel like aggressive and can't control yourself and like just don't know how to deal with anything. And it's like, hey, this is my way of a nice analogy that I like thought for like the experience of growing up and like going through puberty more specifically. This
Yeah.
like very much this fuel of like, oh, this testosterone just does things to you that you don't know how to control, but it's like important to recognize that yes, this is you and you're stuck in that body and you're responsible, but also it's not you, right?
Yeah.
Like that weird that distinction of this thing is you but not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's like
is a very useful
I think
thing to analyze.
that's a very interesting character. That's very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the one character that I'm like, yeah, I'll write a book about this guy.
It's a good one. I like that. That's very fun. I honestly, I don't remember what character I said last week, and that's fine.
I think it's
Nice.
the one you played in Toby's campaign.
Alec. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's a very fun character. That's my character that ended up being a thrice multi-classed character, not of his own will.
That's fun.
We started at level 2, and I was like, perfect. I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. At the start of the campaign, I'm a level 1 monk, level 1 ranger. Then I'm gonna take some levels in monk. Then I'm gonna take some levels in ranger. I drew a card from a custom deck of many things and gained a level in druid. Not of my own volition. But hey, I learned how to cast Primal Savagery, and I was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Love Primal Savagery.
I'm like just a real nature guy, because his whole gimmick was he wanted to cook new foods. That was the idea behind the character. And I was like, he'll be a ranger because he learned the skills from his parents about how to hunt game, how to hunt wildlife. He's a monk because he spent time in the city training underneath like an old master. And now he's a druid because he loves nature. All right. Sure.
So good.
It just kind of happened like that. Yeah, very cool. Let's see,
Fun time.
It's a
It's actually a
fun
really cool
time.
group.
I have a long question. Ready for a long question. As a DM or as a player, how do you all deal with other problem players, such as an overeager, like main character syndrome type person, an evil rules lawyer, as I'll call them, or just like overly shy players who aren't participating?
Talk shit about them once the session ends.
No, see, that's wrong.
Absolutely.
That's incorrect.
Oh.
This is an answer that has a right answer. This is a question that has a right answer, and I have it.
Kill them.
No.
Talk shit to their face when they're not interacting enough. Just be like, hey, you, hey, you. Poke them in the face enough until they react. That's always the right idea,
Kill
right?
them immediately, Smudge says.
Everybody is on my side, is what I'm hearing.
Everyone's a bastard.
I once beat a player and his young son to death with their own shoes.
Was the son part of it? Or just there?
No, it's unrelated. He had to go find the son, had to go track down the child to finish the job. You and your lineage are removed. No. So I will allow anyone who wants to answer a serious answer one last chance, or I'll go off on my own.
I think as a player, I just, for the overly shy player, I tried to get them to interact with the role-playing and stuff. As for overeager main characters, I just kind of try to let them get it through their system.
It could be like, I know my sister and I in our campaign were taking care of like we're worried about one of the players being. We had a player that initially like they're first introduced to D&D, and so their kind of initial reaction was everything it looks like the DM wants me to do, I'm gonna push to like not do that. Like, isn't that funny? It was all right. Me and my sister had some conversations and trying to like help figure out, cultivate like understanding how to show that the collaborative together element of the game can be so much more fun than just throwing monkey wrenches and things. And I mean, maybe that's a thing that a player wants to have as the experience. It was not me, Smudge, actually. But I think it can be. It's like a relationship. It's one of those things of, well, how much of this problem behavior is actually causing a problem? If it's still a problem, then we need to deal with it. Can we figure out some subtle methods to like push the player into situations that allow for better behavior, or more improved interaction? Like this could be a positive or a negative thing of like, can I figure out how to manipulate this player, move this player into a position where they can see and experience something more along the lines of what we were hoping, and like make sure that everyone is getting along, which kind of goes with the whole making sure it's whether it's a problem or not.
Yeah.
And then I imagine, now I haven't had to like actually get to this point. A one-on-one conversation would probably be the best thing to like initiate next if it's like really still being a problem, if people are feeling uncomfortable. The important thing is, as DM, you are the one playing the role of the manager of the group. You're the one that kind of the buck stops with. So it is your role and responsibility to take care of these things.
Yeah.
And usually, people are good enough you don't have to, but
I really like the answer from Michun in chat. I'm just gonna read it off really quick. I think if they're being problematic, the easiest thing to do is to bring it up with them. A direct conversation has always worked best for me if I really have a problem. There's always just ways to work around it by specifically focusing on what players do or asking people what their character thinks or is doing. People are just excited to be part of the game, and I wouldn't want to punish that, just try to trim it down. I think that kind of gets at the heart of the question, which is, for the most part, everyone's here to have fun. And some people don't have the experience or the knowledge of the social situation to really know how to express themselves in a way that is good for everyone. And there's no need to punish that, but there can be a need to have the discussion of, hey, it's great that it seems like you're having a good time. There's a concern that when you do A, it upsets people because it can be overpowering. Like you could be taking the freedom away from other players a little too much. You could be, maybe it's a very shy player and it's just, hey, I'm concerned that you aren't having fun because it seems like you aren't engaging as much. And there's nothing, if there's something I, as the DM, am not doing enough for you to feel engaged, I want to broach this discussion to just be like, hey, what can I do to help you have a great time while we're here as friends? And I've only ever had issues with another player like once or twice, and never in my home campaign. Everyone there is just very much understood what was going on. They understood the prompt like right from the get-go of, hey, we're here to have fun as a group. Okay, that's all right. But no, I had an experience with one player where I was just, it was a bad case of what I jokingly refer to as main character syndrome, but is genuinely just the idea of my character needs to interact with everything that's going on all the time. Which is one thing when you're the only player related to a plot hook. Like when your character is related to a plot hook, yeah, go for it. The DM is putting this here for you. It's a plot hook. It's like, oh, this character's my great grandfather and they invented God. Yeah, go talk to them. You're the player who has the initiative here. But it's another thing when a different player or a different group of players has their own like backstory important thing, and this player just waltzes in and says, I don't care about this, I'm dealing with the problem and leaving. It's just, no, don't pull that.
Yeah, I mean that can be a thing for sure.
Yeah.
Do I have main character syndrome? I just realized Melody
You occasionally will jump in when it's another player's turn, and I will ask you to stop politely at the table, and you always do.
Okay.
You've never caused a problem, but
Very good.
there was one time when you wanted to participate in the scene so badly that you forgot your character was permanently asleep.
We
And you
all forgot.
you walked up,
all
you in
forgot.
character walked up and punched a guy and then stole a bag from them, and I was like, aren't you magically asleep right now?
We only realized that a good 5 minutes after that entire interaction happened. Everybody forgot.
It was very silly.
It's always, I think, a challenge and like important to make sure that knowing the balance of letting players have their fun, but also keeping that fun from getting in the way of other people's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's very much DMing is very much getting ready for a managerial role where you're like, you're like a few percent too much of like the time right now. Like let's let the people have their turn. This is gonna be fine, and this is how we all together enjoy.
That brings up another point that I didn't think about until now, but I definitely want to ask, which is, what is the proper division of responsibilities in a D&D group? Because there's a lot of people that just say, oh, it's the DM's job to schedule. It's the DM's job to provide the location and figure out where we're meeting. The DM's job to prepare the campaign. It's the player's job to show up. And after a certain point, that becomes a lot for the DM. There's a lot of work that goes into if you're the one that's de facto in charge of everything. And I've had, like for my home campaign, I was starting to feel the stress of like, I have to do all of this, and I have to prepare a thing, and I have to make sure all my characters and all my players are engaged and that everyone's happy and having a good time. And after a while, I just realized I can't be the one that does all of this. I need to go ask someone to help me out. So one of my players took over the job of scheduling and figuring out where we're meeting. And that's been incredibly helpful for me.
And the one time he wasn't there, you're all like, where are we going? Where are we going?
Yeah, the one time he couldn't make it, because of my own fault, he told me the day before I got my wisdom teeth out that he couldn't make it to the next session, and apparently that day I told him, okay, we'll cancel, because he and his wife couldn't make it, and then the next week I showed up at a normal meeting spot, and I was like, wait, where is he? He normally lets us in. And then, so we went and had a session without him because I forgot, because the immediate next day I was high on Vicodin, and just any recollection of the previous events of my life were gone permanently. I don't know who I am anymore. And
I mean, that's what happens.
But no, I would say if you're a DM or you want to start DMing a campaign and you feel overwhelmed by what feels like the burden of responsibility of all of the things you have to do, talk to your players. There's a lot of things that you can kind of relieve yourself of and kind of hand off to the players in your campaign to work on. There's the expectation that the DM is the one in charge of the social situation. That doesn't have to be the case. Frequently, I would say, if you're meeting at another player's house or apartment, you can ask that player to kind of be in charge of, hey, these are the things that fly at the table as far as like, if something goes wrong and you start having a problem player, you can ask another player who you think is kind of like, I don't want to use the word like the dominant personality at the table, but sometimes you just have the friend who's like the mom friend,
the parent.
Yeah, you have the parent friend,
the dad, the mom. Yeah, I absolutely. I can agree with
Toby the
that.
parent friend?
I think in our D&D group, yeah.
All right.
I think it depends. Like, so for me, one, I'm a tryhard, so like it's hard to let go of things. But when I'm doing that, like, I try to make sure that those questions are usually answered in the most convenient way possible. Scheduling is always hard.
Yeah.
Particularly with my group, who's just like, oh yeah, we're on experiment. We're gonna be gone for a week, and it's like, no,
no,
back. You said you were serious about D&D. So I think that like that's the most burden there. I do like to over prepare, and like that's the kind of thing I don't think you can't really get rid of that. But like the other stuff doesn't really burden that much. The thing that I have let a lot of people do and like start to like just trust to let them like trust that they will take care of bringing like snacks and stuff because I like to have that around. I just realized like in prepping what I've done for a lot of stuff is just like, oh, I don't have time to go out to the store like 10 minutes before the game or whatever. I need that time to prep because again, I'm a tryhard in every aspect. So even that little bit of like relief letting it happen is like, oh, okay, this is actually not too bad. Okay, good. We're working on that. We're working on developing some chill. It's a weird time, but
I would agree. I think if you as the DM is just like, yeah, I can do all this stuff, go for it. Power to you. There's nothing wrong with wanting to take on the responsibility and going for it. I want to. It feels like there is a stigma that is the DM has to do everything and the players just have to show up and sometimes bring snacks. Which, if you're a player, please bring snacks. I'm very poor. I'm hungry. DMing takes a lot of calories, and I would love to put food into my mouth the entire time that I'm doing it.
Oh,
you hated it?
I hate everything so much.
This is why you never read chat, okay? Just leave the reading of chat to the person who's in charge of running the stream. No.
I don't want to be alive anymore.
Oh, boo.
But no, it feels like there is this stigma of the DM has to do everything, and I want to just put it out there to anyone listening. That doesn't have to be the case. Talk with your players. The best solution for your problems is usually communication, and that's not even, like D&D advice. Just talk to people in general, and you can probably fix all your problems.
Well, an important thing is that, you are really playing with your friends, and it is okay to trust your friends to be at the level of maturity and therefore take responsibility that you yourself would take, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's an important thing to recognize in your life is that, yes, you might not always line up with exactly what you want or would expect, but like letting people do things will help with you and will help them feel connected to the experience and to the party and to everything, right? Like,
yeah,
so it is better to do that if you can.
Absolutely.
Let everyone contribute and build the thing. Anyways,
very good.
Horse time.
Exactly. We brought. I was on board until you made a horse noise. I just want to put that out there. I was good with it. Motherfucker turned into an equine. All right.
Again, I told you one of my weaknesses is DMing is like not doing the things that I like think of, and one of those is like good sound effects. So I'm working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one thing you're really good at is sound effects.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't consider that to be the case, but I appreciate it. Anytime I have to do a sound effect, I get severe anxiety about like, oh god, what sound is going to come out of my mouth, and I know this is going to sound different from what I think it sounds like, because your voice always sounds weird. That's been genuinely the only thing I don't like about Luck Check is going back to, I have to go back and watch old episodes to remember certain things that happen so that I can just be like, oh, right. This got set up. I need to make sure there's a payoff for that later as we go. And that means
don't you have a spreadsheet for that?
I do, but sometimes things happen on the fly I'm not prepared for. And so I'm just like, oh yeah,
what happened to that memory you were talking about?
Listen.
Last Talkback.
Listen.
Melicocelli's asking what are some good D&D snacks?
Good D&D snacks?
Anything candy.
Anything. I would say not candy. Candy's fine for people that want it, but I will shovel food into my mouth until I can't eat anymore. And if you bring me something that's going to put me into a like heightened sugar state, I'm going to pass out.
Smokehouse almonds.
All right, Brennan.
I forgot about that bit.
Are they talking about notes in the chat now?
Yeah, you've created an argument about notes in the chat now. No, I would say pretzels are great like little
Ooh,
salted pretzels
yeah.
would be amazing.
I love combo pretzels that have the cheese in the middle.
See, but no.
Immediately you introduce carbs, and Johnny's like, I'm gonna die if I eat that.
Listen, no. What I've been trying to say this whole time. I will eat celery. Bring me sticks of celery pre-washed. I will eat that the entire D&D session, and I will be happy.
Why?
I love celery. Celery is so good.
Why?
Celery's gross.
Celery is
Like,
delicious.
celery's alright.
I
Maybe
like
if you put some peanut butter on it, but like
red grape tomatoes. Now those, you want to just snack on something, are good.
I'd rather just have
Weird.
grapes, I feel like.
I'd have grapes are good. Grapes are a good option. Like, so fruit is a solid option. Grapes are probably the easiest. Sometimes strawberry, you can get away with strawberries,
Red
but I wouldn't
grape
do anything that
tomato.
requires too much prep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
I
what's
don't-
really good? A veggie tray.
Yeah, that's great.
Everyone loves a veggie tray the moment you're not younger than 14.
Yeah.
You know? It's just like,
Just get a
ranch is
charcuterie
great.
tray.
Smudge in chat. I absolutely raw dog celery. I love celery. All right.
God.
I don't want to be here
Just-
anymore.
You can leave.
I don't
Just
wanna.
just you have no sense of like safety or like I don't know,
Safety?
Karen, you're just gonna shove it right in there.
I mean, I take bites like a real person, but
I don't know.
I don't
He's
know.
not deep throating the celery.
I am consuming. It enters the mouth. It turns into something that gets destroyed within my gut biome, and then I remove it from my body, just like anyone else.
Yeah,
Sounded like
that's not a
such a
bad.
robot saying.
That's not a bad snack choice.
Yeah.
Also a solid one. Peanut M&Ms is all right because it does balance a little bit. You get a little bit of like
true.
Protein to like help balance out the sugar, but you do get a little bit of the rush, and it won't quite kill you. But yeah.
My concern is like if someone brings a bag of Skittles to the D&D game, I'm going to eat that whole bag and feel like I'm having a heart attack by the end of the session. This is I don't have the self-control to stop myself from gorging on whatever snack you bring.
I'll eat the bag, so
So
you don't
please
have to.
bring something healthy. That's my request. Yeah, it's a self-control thing,
All
Fun
right,
Spectre.
you bring the celery for him, candy for me.
There you go. Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions? We've officially run through the one additional question than normal that I prepare.
Oh wow. Yeah. Real quick. What's up with Gabi? How you doing? What's up with your life? How are you feeling? You're officially now the Gabi. That's what I'm saying.
What?
This is
I'm here
a
to
question
derail
for you.
things right at the end. Is it?
Is it for me?
I was going for you, yeah.
I'm Gabi?
Yeah. I mean, both of you could be goblins. I don't know. I haven't
Oh,
met you.
I'm
This is,
absolutely a goblin.
When I
imagine.
when I met Alex, it was in a place with an alley behind the store, and I would frequently go out to that alley on break and see Alex sitting in an abandoned grocery what are they called?
Carts.
Grocery cart. In an
Carts?
abandoned grocery cart, squatting, smoking a cigarette. And so Alex's name at work became the Alley Goblin. So when you say the word Gabi, I'm like, oh,
There was also one day
see.
where I was sitting in the store. There was a little place where we put our bags and our jackets, and I was hunched over there with a slice of bread and just eating it. And our coworker is just like, Alex, what the fuck?
hey, you want to get on my case about eating celery? You eat bread plain.
It's
When we first started dating, I found 2 full loaves of white bread in the space in between Alex's bed and the wall.
white bread is good.
And so Alex, I had to make a stipulation for our relationship that there wasn't allowed to be a bed loaf anymore. That was something I had to broach with my partner, that they couldn't keep a bed loaf anymore.
Oh no!
It helped me because I had
Hey, everyone coming at me in chat for saying bread is fine. I'm not saying you can't just eat bread. Don't keep it in your bed, though.
I was having an emotional problem where I wasn't getting out of bed to eat, so I was having body problems at the same time where I literally was lacking vitamins so bad I almost died at work.
I understand.
So
How is white bread supposed to help with that?
Shut up.
Like,
It doesn't.
not like I'm
Shut
on
up.
your side, Alex. I'm on your side, but real quick, how does Wonder Bread solve?
It wasn't Wonder Bread.
I'm missing nutrients. I better fill myself with
It
these
was
empty
Panera
calories.
white bread.
I didn't think the bread fascists would be out in force in the tabletop community. It's a great send tweet.
So I kept the bread on my bed so I would remember to eat food. So
Real
I
quick,
didn't
Nishun,
die.
I'm more of a bread centrist, but like we're coming up with some good points here.
I'm a full bread socialist, all right?
If you can't handle someone at their bed bread, you don't deserve them at their bed best. Mishan's on my side.
Hey, Ben, what was your question again? I forgot.
I was just asking, what's up? Just gonna ask what's up with life. All right, here we go.
That clap made no
How do you
noise.
That's because Discord is beautiful.
Sorry, I just got so distracted. I watched and then nothing came through, and it made me happy. Go on.
This is why syncing Discords was difficult for a moment there when we were trying to do audios of luck check.
Right.
What makes a good combat, and how do you craft it?
There are, I would say, two very important things for any combat, and that is the distraction and the goal. Every combat needs to have a purpose, and that can just be, I'm not saying there needs to be some grand philosophical, like, story-driven reason for each combat you have, but, like, if you roll an encounter on, like, an hour of travel, and you're like, yeah, like, 15 goblins come out of the woods, the goal is to get away from the goblins, or, like, get them out of your way, specifically. The goal is to continue your journey. Every combat has a goal, or a win condition that you're trying to reach. And then everything else is a distraction to that win condition. So you have, oh hey, the 5 goblins come out of the woods, brandishing knives and like kitchen ladles or something, and they just book it at you and they're ready. And you're just like, oh, I cast sleep on the goblins. It's like, hey, nice, you cleared those 5 goblins. But that gave the other 10 goblins time to set up their bows and arrows, and now you're dead. Great job, first level wizard, you did it.
I go with my father and go, "You're just making that up right now, aren't you?"
Exactly. No,
yes,
so
I am. What's the point?
In order to keep combats from getting stale, I would recommend that you give a lot of environmental options to the players, and feel free to put those in your like decoration for the actual arena that they're fighting in. Like, oh hey, there's a boulder on top of this hill. If I put a little rock there, and when players are like, what's that rock doing? I'm like, it's a boulder. You can push that shit over and knock some goblins down. And they love it. That's awesome.
You signpost it like that? Or just like, here's what I wanted you to do with that?
No, I'll just be like, there's a boulder that looks to be about that size. Do whatever you want with it. And then they ignore it, and you're like, why do I even bother?
He's here.
I try to be creative in combat, but sometimes you just...
Sometimes Fireball.
Fireball is real good.
Sometimes Spider King.
Look, you let Ian be the sorcerer. What do you want?
It's fine. No, I mean, it's all good. I would say what I as a DM,
okay, that makes sense.
What I as a DM want out of combat is I want my players to feel challenged, and then at the end of a combat, unless for story reasons, generally I want the players to feel success. There will be story beats where I'm like, it doesn't make sense to come out of this combat on a high note. And sometimes that means a player has died, and so you don't want there to be that big sigh of relief at the end. Sometimes that means...
we're all in jail.
Sometimes that means, like, hey, the players succeeded in combat by not dying. They fulfilled the goal of combat, but the story result of this combat was, hey, you just rebelled against the primary, like, domineering force in the world. Now there's a lot of people after you. So I would say as a DM, you want to be considering the challenge of that you're levying against your players to make sure that they always feel engaged. And then um there's also the story beat of how do I want them to feel at the end of this combat. And I think those are the two big things to be thinking about. We have a question from chat, unless you have something you want to add.
Nope.
Okay. There's a question from chat. What do you feel is the best method for players to escape a combat scenario? Have you ever tried the 5e escape mechanic? Just some skill checks? Or just if they're done, they're done. Let them run.
What's the escape mechanic?
Truth be told, I had no idea there was a 5th edition escape mechanic. So
I think he's talking about there's a section in the DM guide about chases,
Mhm.
and part of that includes like potential escapes. It's kind of a weak section,
Yeah.
where it's about describing like it's literally about I want to talk about like trying to talk about how there are certain roles associated with the two different sides. Basically, with every chase sequence, there's a person trying to get away and the person trying to actually get to the quarry.
Right.
And how you could like describe, page 52. I think that's the beginning of the chase, and like making a decision for when they get away based off of the decisions they make and how they roll.
Yeah.
To get off on that, but it's like it's
It's
kind of a weak
kind of dry.
mechanic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those very like bare bones thing where it's like, well, it would make sense if these two are having trouble, if like, they're having trouble because you push carts in the way or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah. I'll pass that off to either of you. How would you run an escape scene?
I think I would have it be skill checks, like similar to how when we were running from that inn in the first couple of episodes. First episode, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we were jumping on roofs and hopping over shit.
That was the second episode, but yes.
Turning into a wolf and just running.
Yeah.
Classic
escape method. Yeah. What about you?
I think that's not a bad choice. I think I would largely run it just kind of like combat and see how creative that players could be with their abilities as I throw like different monster abilities. Basically, I would reinterpret like what monsters could do to try and gain advantage on these situations.
Right.
And then leave it up to the players to figure out how they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
I really push that angle.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think how I would like to run escape scenes, I've never actually DM'd a real escape scene before. It's just never really come up. There's been one or two times where you guys were like, we want to hide from this enemy that is looking for us. I wouldn't call that an escape scene. I would want it to be a combination of skill checks, but all based on player interpretation of their own abilities. So basically, I would just have for each player's turn in the initiative of the escape, just say, here's where you are. Here's some explanation of the general area and the general populace around you. What do you want to do mechanically to get out of here? And we can roll a skill check if there's needed. You can spend the spell slot if you're just bypassing an obstacle that way. But I want it to be very player driven, and then I will come up with I will make rolls for monsters that are chasing, just based on hey how well do these guys do in chasing after. Like if my player wanted to try and duck around a corner, climb up the wall, and hide really quick, okay, I'm gonna have my guys use their movement and then roll or just see with their perception because they are actively looking for you. So they'll roll their perception. If they fail against your stealth, they're gonna keep running down that alleyway, and you're gonna get the drop on them, or you're gonna, stuff's gonna work out.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Have you ever had to run? Maybe we're getting close on time. I think it's enough for another question. Have you ever had to run an encounter or set up a thing where you want to scare your players away? Kind of
Absolutely.
curious about this.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Ironivus.
Yeah, the example I gave earlier of my villain Chironivus, the first time they encountered him was very much a, hey, he's gonna kill you. Don't try this fight.
He
And it
did
ended.
anyway.
They tried the fight anyways, and I was like, I'm not gonna punish the entire party with a total party wipe because that's what's waiting to happen here. Instead, you all get sent to jail, you get captured, and you get put on trial. And there's this whole section of things that happen.
And the guy we tried to kill was there.
I would say that a lot of the time, what I end up doing in D&D is try and scare my players. Because
Yes. How? How do you like to scare your players? I'm very curious. I keep thinking of doing that, but I'm always like, my players are very precocious.
right.
And I know the moment I put something in front of them, kind of like what Machine is just saying, like every, D&D players are often conditioned to expect that any encounter can be beaten. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
don't quite do that.
Conditioning is the way to do it. If your players
gotta
have
start
the
somewhere.
expectation that every encounter can be beaten, start to challenge that expectation. That I don't just run difficult combats because I don't ever want to kill a player. As a DM, I never want to see that happen. Sometimes it does because it makes sense. Then sometimes the dice don't roll the way you want them to.
We definitely know you're not afraid to kill us.
Yeah, but I'm not afraid to have the consequences happen. So I would say try and start early if you want to run a campaign that has these kind of scary moments. Start early with, hey, this enemy almost killed you guys. You made it away, but just think about that. Like you got out of this combat, but it was very taxing. You're out of spell slots. 3 of you dropped. You're all at like 10 hit points. That was pretty close. And then as you go, just keeps littering in those few times where it gets too close and it gets a little too scary. And then when you want to pull, when you want to pull the rug out, you introduce your villain that you want to be scary, and things can go south pretty quickly. And it doesn't even have to be in a situation where, oh, here's the guy that's gonna party wipe you, and now you're scared. Is you use that conditioning to try and show the fact that you can die and it is a possibility. Just be careful. And then you introduce an enemy or a villain that doesn't even have to attack the players, just has to, with the knowledge that you could die, do something that's intimidating or do something that's physically or visually scary. I introduced the main villain of my home game by revealing to the players slowly over time that this individual, who is a god, this deity, was capable of mass controlling a wide population of people at a time. And so this individual was capable of creating a hive mind in an area at a time. And so the first time they really came face to face with this villain in a combat scenario, he was just sitting in the background laughing at them while he commanded a horde of all of the people they had just met to chase them down and kill them.
Also summoned meteors down on us.
Yeah, and there was a timer going on in the fight as he cast Meteor Swarm, but I used a modified version that wasn't a instantaneous you all die. It was a, hey, you see Banach, this evil god, is casting a spell. You all get outside and look up and you see things approaching from the sky.
You want to know what the worst part about this fucker being our main villain is? He was my
I
character's
remember him
patron.
talking about this. He was your patron?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Melody's original warlock patron.
Oh no.
Was the god of chaos Banach. It worked out very well. To be fair, at the time you didn't know he was the god of chaos.
Be fair.
You thought he was an archfey.
Thought he was just
You thought he was an
weird boy.
archfey.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
As DMs, how do you guys feel about people taking notes during your session? Is it annoying when they ask you to stop and ask to re-say something or spell something, or?
I don't know. No one's ever asked.
Oh, I ask Johnny constantly.
I would say no, absolutely not. I love when people take notes.
I have 21 pages of notes. I rewrote
Yeah.
these. It
Yeah.
used to be
I
31.
don't think most I would imagine most DMs are like, oh no, this is you engaging with the story. I don't mind retelling
Yeah.
you.
I would
Things.
say the only caveat I have is if we're in a tense, like important story moment, I'd rather you wait until the end to ask me to repeat a part of it. Right? Like don't interrupt the flow of what's going on unless it's just like if you're obviously in a walk around and figure stuff out section, then yeah, interrupt me. If I say a weird name that doesn't mean anything, ask me to spell it or ask me to repeat it so you can spell it the way you think it should be spelled.
Mm,
Shut up! You know I write things phonetically.
I'm right there with you, Alex. I don't understand.
Okay, how would you?
He put X's in things.
Yes, Ben. How would you spell the name Jovwina? That's an important character in my story, Jovwina.
I'm gonna ruin you, Johnny. Let's go. Jovuena, which
Close
is
to
not
how I
there because
spelt
I would
it.
imagine you put a X there instead of the J at the beginning.
It is
Je.
Xovyna.
He hates looking at my notes because all the names are spelt wrong.
It is based on real Ukrainian spelling. Yeah.
Nope, that makes sense. I was thinking about like literally thinking about spelling that name. It's like okay, that like makes it sound like an X, and I was torn between U and W.
Yeah. The weird thing is, if you look up how to pronounce that, and it gives you like the typed out pronunciations of each syllable, instead of doing like a JH, it says KHO for Jo, for Jovwina. Shows up as KHO in a lot of places. It's very interesting.
Cool,
Unrelated.
cool,
Um,
cool.
Well, that is, I spell nothing correct in my book.
It's fine. Yes, please take notes if that is something you like doing. If you are like me
Always
and
been.
most of your notes you write down at the end of the session, that's also fine. Another question. There's certainly time. Are there any moments where, as a player or DM, you feel you've perfectly delivered a situation? Something that you think back on and get that bottle of lightning vibe? That's a very fun question. What's a moment as a player or as a DM that stands out to you as your crowning moment in the game?
Well, obviously, it's the old lady voice. That's 100% my.
I don't know. I usually
There was. So we were running. I think it was Dragon King's Horde, one of the Tiamat ones.
Yeah.
And the DM was like, "Okay, like you guys are in this Dragon Cultist thing. Like, you're gonna have information. Let's." I think the book instructs you to like share like information with players and it's like share the role play around, or I do just what Chuck did. And my character, what I was just known, was told is that I think your character knows like where the sacrifices are or whatever. And I break out in what I called her Jessie, yes. And it was just this, oh, how dare they? These poor what was the it was excuse me as I remember how I phrased it. It was like it's like kids these days don't have any respect for the things that they get. Back in my generation would have been so excited to be sacrificed to these dragons. How dare yeah, but like literally, she's just like a washing board. And I was like, ah! I had the entire table in stitches. The poor Dia tried to get up and just had to do a few laps around the table to get control
That
of
is
the
very good.
giggles. 100%. I don't think I have ever quite topped that moment. There are a few things. It's like, oh, I've given you like my players a thing to play with.
Yeah, that works really well.
But yeah, that was a great one. What about you guys?
I have to say my best D&D moment I've talked about it a little bit of me planning to kidnap a pivotal character in my New York game. My DM as a joke gave me this ring of rock where if you put it on, you just stood as still as a rock. And he gave it to me as like a joke, like, oh, you can't do anything with it. And I'm like, I need this character to save my father figure. And then I go buy some rope too.
Hmm.
And my DM, for the longest time, had no idea I was planning this. And then when we eventually got there, like, I'm prepped to kidnap this lady and just go off.
Just with a surprise round, use your object interaction, put the ring on her, you know, tie the rope, get your party to drag,
Yeah.
get a couple of
Let's go,
logs
let's
so
go,
you get
let's
the
go.
wheels.
Yeah. One other player knew I was doing it, I think. And they're like, don't. And I'm like, but
What if?
it's funny. When my DM realized, he's like, no. No.
I have
It's like
it's very
you
good.
fall into my trap.
I have one that I'm actually going to see if this person is still in chat. Uh Melly Cuccelli, if you happen to still be there, I actually want to shout out one of your moments in my home game that is to this day one of the hardest things I've ever seen in D&D. So this character, or this player, who's Melly Cuccelli in Twitch chat, they play as a treant druid named Rudy Leafwood. And Rudy's a very sweet young character who is like very naive and new to the world, but has all of this like connection to the native world and like the natural existence around them, and so they make for a good druid. The villain casts a banishment spell on Rudy and sends her specifically. The way I was flavoring it was he's casting the spell banishment, which is supposed to send you to a random different plane generally, or like a safe different plane, but this guy works directly for my god of chaos. He casts banishment on you, you get sent to the plane of chaos where the god is waiting for you, and the god flat out asks you to betray your friends, and he will let you go home safely, and he will save your people that are dying. He gives you the offer of betray your friends, give up on your quest to stop me, and your home will be safe. Rudy says, I don't know the exact word. Rudy effectively says, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to stop you. And so Banach reaches over, puts a thumb into her eye, and crushes it out of her socket. Rudy says, can I roll something to not react or to try and hold it in? And I said, sure. And I'm trying to think what it would be. And I'm trying to think, like, is that like a Constitution saving throw? It's because, no, I think you're going to take the full damage either way. It's not a huge amount of damage, but it is like, you know. And then Rudy's player offers, can I make an intimidation roll to not be scared? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
Rudy, natural 20s. And role plays out her eye getting crushed into her socket while she sits there unflinching, looking at the main villain, the god of chaos, that is here just to ruin her life. And I, like, genuinely, I've never had a jaw drop moment so hard while I was DMing or playing. And I was just like, that is the scariest thing I have ever seen in D&D. Of just like the god that wants to kill you and destroy the world crushed your eye, and you stared at him unflinching while he did it. And I was just like, holy shit, that was cool. I loved that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a moment.
It was very good. To answer, I guess, the question that was put forward, for me personally, I played my favorite character I've played, Alec, was based on the idea of, like, as a character role, was based on the idea of, like, hey, childhood trauma and anxiety that comes from that. And I had a day where I had gotten home from a really bad day at work where I had had several panic attacks at work. And then I came home and role played a real panic attack in character, and then sat up and was like, huh, man, I don't know if I was pretending to be my character or if I actually had a panic attack and just live streamed it for all my friends. But either way, I think I nailed that. So, because everyone was like chilled as it happened. Take your medicine, kids. That's all I'll say.
It's always important.
Always important.
Man.
I think we are getting about that time I have one
Okay.
final question that is less a D&D related question and more just in general. Where can we find any of you and your work? Do you have any like social media you want to plug? Any things that you're doing that you want to show off?
Yeah. So you can find me, I guess I should say over at Twitter, technically just at Ben Stort right now, where you can come see me not interact with anyone, but technically I'm there. So if there's a
Yeah.
thing, I will. I'm just not that active as like shouting out my opinions. And also, if y'all want to see some dope science stuff. I've taken a bit of break because I had to actually defend my thesis, but I do a show with a friend of mine called the Anechoic Chamber that focuses on kind of like medium level science content. It's like explaining like interesting new cutting edge developments in science, and it's kind of a nice thing to be like, oh, this is how all of this stuff works. This is why it works. It's really cool.
Yeah.
The latest one we did was a kind of a tour through general relativity, which I found really fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you have any, Alex, that you want to shout out? There's no pressure to. You don't have to.
Not unless people want to read weird fan fiction.
I will
Who
let you
doesn't wanna read
decide.
real fiction?
I'll let you decide if you want to put that in the Discord as an option for people.
Yeah, check out Cacti President on Archive of Our Own.
There you go. Why'd you say archive like that?
Because that's what they wanted to do. Get out of here.
Is that not how you say it?
Nope. It's okay though.
Oh no, that's not how you say
How do you
it.
say it?
Archive.
Fuck!
Yeah, it's like it's
okay.
like ARK is how you pronounce it. You don't pronounce the CH usually. Yeah, I know. English is weird. As for myself, I stream primarily on LuckCheck. We do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. and a handful of Fridays for our Talkback. I also stream personally. I play a lot of roguelikes like Darkest Dungeon 2 over at twitch.tv/plodov. I'm not gonna, it's spelled weirdly, so don't worry about it. Not a big deal. When I do that, you can also, I'm gonna give a brief shout out to someone who isn't here, but my brother also streams twitch.tv/eco390. He was on here last week, had a great time. And with that, do we have any closing words from our players here?
I want to thank chat for supporting me in my bread loaf. My bed loaf. Thank you. It means the world.
Bed loaf is important.
Anything? Any closing words from you, Ben?
Stay away from magic, kids. Our totalitarian government says it's bad, so clearly it's bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Magic is highly frowned upon in real life, just as it is in LuckCheck. Be very careful. Don't let anyone know. Keep it locked up inside. I don't remember the lyrics to Let It Go, but I was going to try and do a joke there. We're going to send off a raid to a different D&D
Really
stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us while we had this talk back. It was a good time.
Thank you.
We are going to head out, input this. We're
Bye,
heading off to raid
everyone.
Harkon the
Bye,
Lesser.
everyone.
They're playing something called Pax Mythdosica. I don't know how exactly they want me to pronounce that, but we're going to head out. Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
And I got to interact with the stream for a second, so give me a second to do that.
I will
Yeah.
return, probably, maybe.
Use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Actually,
Bye.
he casted a spell that should be the same as attacking, and he can't.
That's actually true. Yeah, yeah.
What?
You've done the same thing.
I'm happy.
It's just revenge when you've said things to Harkon.
The chat agrees with me on bed loaf.
Okay, chill. We don't need
The point of chanting it.
All right, let me think. I don't have movement. I guess that's the end. Oh, bonus action.
Finish ready to.
Misty
Yes, please.
Step.
That'd be great.
No, I can't. Or does that?
Sorry, I
It's a
kept
spell. Okay.
away.
It's an ability, not a spell.
Not
It's okay.
doing it anyways.
Then
Happens.
I-
Basically said it's a spell. It's not. No,
yes, Misty
teleport.
Step. Third, I see this way.
Alright, you teleport
There-
to a group of
Important. I'm thinking. I'm just looking at 30 feet away.
just contemplate track that like how much it was. Yeah, let's say else.
Let me go back and see how much it
Guys,
was.
you just forgot.
21
It
damage.
was
I'm pretty sure.
21.
Yeah.
Just forgot, guys.
Hi, guys.
Like he forgot that he can't move after